Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you about horizontal immunity for iniquity, transgression, and sin, the manifest presence of Antichrist. This is part 5 of this 5-part series. Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 through 6. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great harlot that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. We know Revelation 17, 1 through 6 depicts the final spiritual seat of all lost souls in the kingdom of hell. It's their final resting place. It's the mark of the beast upon all flesh prior to the second advent of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And it's the seat of all lost souls in the kingdom of hell in their graduation scale and the operational capacity as they serve Satan. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 13 through 15 and Revelation chapter 13 verses 15 through 17, which enumerates the constitution of satanic captivity for us. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 13 through 15, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, meaning a messenger of the gospel. Therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. I personally believe that this passage here in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 13 through 15, first and foremost is mentioning the image to the beast. We know the image to the beast is a civil power that appears in Revelation chapter 17 verses 3 and 4, as manifest by Revelation chapter 17 verses 17. And we know that Satan appears as an angel of light. An angel is a messenger, and of course the light is the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verses 3 and 4. So Satan in this 2 Corinthians 11, 13 through 15 explicates for us that the greatest tactical militant advantage that Satan has over all flesh, and that's concealment within a position of righteousness, with concealment cloaked by a fraudulent manifestation of righteousness within man. And we know his ministers here, it says his ministers are transformed as ministers of righteousness. Now, the image to the beast is a civil power as it appears in Revelation chapter 17, verses 3 and 4, and Revelation chapter 13 verses 15 through 17. It is a civil power, but it is in union with the harlot. These two are part and parcel of each other, and they don't come to the fullness of their numbers and operational capacity until they perfect their union, as depicted in this word picture, this signification, this vision that John was given on the island of Patmos. And so therefore, I personally believe, since the image to the beast is as manifested and enumerated in Revelation chapter 13 verses 15 through 17 as the enforcement of capital punishment, the enforcement of death for all that will not worship the image to the beast, the ambassador bearing the seal of Satan, as the scriptures make it clear that we know by Revelation chapter 14, 9 and 10 that the image of the beast is the entity, the flesh and blood. It's man representing Satan in his fullness and his presence, purpose, and power, that the image to the beast. We know the image to the beast is the causality the image of the beast today is pouring out the spirit of Antichrist. Revelation chapter 14, 9 and 10. And the third angel followed him, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image, ever receive his mark in his forehead and in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. We know the image of the beast is pouring out the spirit of Antichrist today and soliciting the worship of death upon all flesh, as we are all painfully aware of now. And we know by Revelation chapter 13, verses 15 through 17, the image to the beast, and he had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. We know the image of the beast is soliciting the worship of death. It is by Revelation chapter 17, verse 3 and 4. It is Satan's seat is revealed by this word picture in his heart as the desire for sexual and monetary control over all flesh. And as people, it captures people in service to its presence. It forces them on pain of death to render sexual and monetary control to it as its fraudulent manifestation of righteousness in civil control of the population, as manifested in Revelation chapter 13, verses 15. And we know that the image to the beast causes the mark of the beast. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand and their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the name of the beast, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And so the image to the beast is, while it is in union with false apostate Christianity, as manifested by the harlot in Revelation chapter 17, verse 1 through 6. We know the image to the beast is the sole entity that enforces the mark of the beast upon pain of death and causes the mark of the beast. There's no other that I know of in Scripture. It's the image to the beast is just that. It is the ambassador bearing the seal of Satan and the indwelt presence of Satan by the spirit of Antichrist, and does the things that pleases its father. It's the messenger of Satan. And when we know that when you're speaking to the image of the beast, you are actually speaking, it is speaking of as one mind, one voice, and one singular vision of Satan. It's speaking the words of Satan to you and attempting to capture your soul, as manifested by Revelation chapter 17, verses 17. So, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 through 15. The ministers here, I personally believe, as the civil authorities labor for sexual and monetary control on pain of death over the entire population in democratic union. I believe this first and foremost is the image to the beast, because the scriptures make it perfectly clear in the constitution of satanic criminal psychopathology, the constitution of Satan, in Revelation 13, 15 through 17, that the image of the beast only, is what enforces the worship of death, pours out the spirit of Antichrist, and causes the mark of the beast to fall upon all flesh. And false apostate Christianity, as manifested by Revelation chapter 17, verse 3 and 4, depends on the civil authority to reveal her presence, purpose, and power as it's concealed in a fraudulent manifestation of righteousness. But the image of the beast is the purpose, the presence, purpose, and power of Satan revealed to all flesh, as the image to the beast actually solicits the worship of death. It pours out the spirit of Antichrist upon the entire population, and it actually enforces the death penalty upon all that won't pay homage to it, as it maintains a fraudulent manifestation of righteousness within its civil capacity. So the image to the beast, absolutely, I believe first and foremost, is the minister of Satan that appears here, because it causes and it enforces. It causes the worship of death, and it enforces the mark of the beast. It causes it. It causes the mark of the beast to fall upon all flesh. The false apostate Christianity that appears in Revelation 17, 1 through 6 is more of a passive manifestation that relies upon, it seats upon the beast, which we know is the manifest presence of Antichrist by Revelation chapter 13, 18, and that the beast is full of the names of blasphemy. That is the manifest presence of the image of the beast within this word picture in this passage here. We know that the false apostate Christianity sits here upon the beast because it relies upon the image of the beast to enforce the death penalty, so it can maintain monetary and ecclesiastical control over the population and reap that harvest within that capacity. So we know that the farther man is from the glory of God, the greater his capacity increases to serve Satan without cognizance of injury within himself, within his soul. He doesn't know that he's doing injury within his soul, and thus we have the manifest declaration by God of Babylon being in darkness in verse 5 of Revelation chapter 17, and upon her forehead was named written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. They don't know they're in captivity. They don't know that they have the mark of the beast, and that's by design by God, so they don't panic that at the second advent of Jesus Christ, so they don't panic, and it just becomes a huge, just a terrible mess of people panicking, knowing that their lives are about to end for eternity. So God has to put them in darkness and resign them to dark, and that's the manifest presence of Antichrist in their souls, and the darkness that resides permanently seated in their hearts. So the further man goes from the glory of God, the greater his capacity is to serve Satan. His capacity increases to serve Satan. This is manifest in Proverbs chapter 14, verses 12. There's a way that seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Romans 6:16, know you not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, as servants ye are to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness. Nobody today is fully cognizant of the eternal consequences of their sins, and we're just not cognizant of it. We don't know, and that's by God's judgment. So we can continue to, as we continue to the church, even the body of Christ, as we're all sinners. As the body of Christ continues to labor, they do so to put off by intellectually the old man with the affections and lusts, and but we make mistakes from time to time, and we're not cognizant. And this is even sinning at lying against the glory of God with false doctrine is a sin, and we're not cognizant of that either. And that's by the judgment of Holy Father God. And because if we were cognizant of it, this would be the manifest of the seal of God within our hearts, and it would be the manifestation of the mark of the beast upon all those that are resigned to eternal condemnation in their final seats in the kingdom of hell. So, but as man goes farther and farther in service to Satan, the less and less he is cognizant of his eternal reward. Truth is reality is the choices that men apply in life. Truth is the eternal consequences of those choices. So, and he's also not cognizant to how he injures other people that are within his influence, control, and care. Romans chapter 7, verses 12 through 14, wherefore the law is holy, commandment holy, just, and good, was in that which good made death unto me. God forbid sin that might appear sin, working death in me. And Hebrews chapter, of course, 2, verses 1 through 3, where the consequences of sin are rendered by the image to the beast upon all flesh, as the mark of the beast is made perfect, which I believe the mark of the beast is in its seal, is in its permanency within the image of the beast today. But as the image of the beast, we know as the image of the beast starts to realize that it is gaining more and more horizontal immunity while it's committing crimes, and it's soliciting the worship of death, and it's actually soliciting the worship of death upon the children of God, that it actually starts to render the death penalty, as Satan is his father. You are the father unless your father do is a murder from the beginning of not a truth. You are, in that passage could read, you are the father of devil unless your father you will do. He is a murderer to fulfill all his lusts. And as the image of the beast labors more and more to fulfill his lust, and he gains horizontal immunity, so he can't be punished for his sin. He can't be locked up for his sin, and that's the purpose of declaring horizontal immunity in the presence of God. Revelation chapter 18, verse 3 through 5. As he realizes more and more horizontal immunity, his crimes become worse and worse against the people of God and the children of God in democracy and democratic union. This is what Paul is speaking here in Hebrews chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. So the beast in Revelation chapter 17, 1 through 6 symbolizes the image of the beast in the fullness of its numbers and operational capacity, the manifest presence of Antichrist. Revelation chapter 13, verses 15 through 18. The passage in Revelation chapter 17, verse 3 and 4 says, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, and this is the Antichrist, as it appears And verse 18 of Revelation 13, here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, his number is 636. And of course, back again to Revelation chapter 17, verse 3 and 4, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, and here appears the image of the beast in the fullness of its numbers and operational capacity, as the constitution of Satan is sealed within its soul, as depicted in Revelation chapter 13, verses 15 through 17. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So the beast in Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 through 6 symbolizes the image of the beast in the fullness of its numbers and operational capacity, the manifest presence of Antichrist. And remember, Revelation 17, 1 through 6 is the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace within all flesh. It's the mark of the beast. It's service without discretion and without love, without the habitation of God residing within their souls. 1 John 4:16, for God is love, and he that dwells in love dwells in God, and God in him. And we know that the majority of the population today in Democratic Union have a passive manifestation of the fruits of life, and the fruit of the Spirit is manifest in Galatians 5:22 and 23. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. Even people that don't labor in the glory and in righteousness to glorify God and labor for the salvation of others, there's many people that we know in this country that do have the fruits of righteousness because they abide in love. And the Bible says that he that dwells in love dwells in God, and God in him. 1 John 4:16 through 18. But as the image of the beast pours out the solicitation of murder and the spirit of Antichrist upon the children of God and the children of man, we know that he has the seal of Satan in his heart, because what he's trying to do by the manifestation of John 8:44 is to commit murders to fulfill his own lusts of a sexual and monetary nature, as the image to the beast is manifested in Revelation chapter 17, verse 3 and 4. The seed of Satan is made perfect in his heart by the desire for sexual and monetary control over all flesh, not just within the body of Christ, but over all flesh. And thus we have false apostate Christianity that is in captivity, because the image of the beast is the causality of the worship of death, and will kill you if you do not render it homage ultimately when the Constitution comes to its full, and is the causality of the mark of the beast, the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace within all flesh. So the beast in Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 through 6 symbolizes the image of the beast in the fullness of his numbers and its operational capacity, the manifest presence of Antichrist. Revelation chapter 13, verses 15 through 18. This is the permanent residence of hell in direct opposition to Holy Father God, as explicated and enumerated in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 through 16, and Revelation chapter 19, verses 7 and 8. Let us be glad and rejoice in God, give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready, and to her was granted that she shall be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. This is the seal of God upon all those that receive eternal life just before the second advent of Jesus Christ, as they are prepared spiritually. They're sealed with the seal of God, the glory of God, and they are prepared to meet the husband, to be raptured up to the holy city, and once they're sealed, they have we have eternal life, but they're sealed, and there's no man is able to on pain of death to unseal them. Once God seals, we have the seal of God today, but this is actually the perfect seal of the body of Christ in the final moments and while the rest of the world is receiving the seal of Satan in their hearts, the mark of the beast, and they're no longer even abiding in a passive manifestation of the fruits of life, as manifest in Galatians 5:22 and 23. So Revelation 17, 1 through 6 depicts the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace, Galatians 5:22 and 23, and Isaiah 61, 1 through 3, where we are depicted as trees of righteousness within the souls of all flesh. 1 Corinthians 15:50, as foretold by Jesus himself on the way to the cross, in Luke chapter 23, verses 26 through 31, and again in Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 through 13, in the parable of the 10 virgins, where the 5 that are foolish no longer possess the Spirit of grace. Psalm 23, 1 through 6, and 2 Kings chapter 9, verses 1 through 3. It's interesting to note that Jesus Christ on the way to the cross, when the women were lamenting and wailing because he was on his way to the cross, he said unto them, women, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children, for these things be done in the green tree, what shall be done in the dry. And in this passage, Jesus Christ himself on the way to the cross declared the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace and the population of hell, as it is depicted as a word picture, signified, a signification that was given to John on the Isle of Patmos, as it was given as a vision, so he would never forget it, and he wrote it down in the simplest terms that he possibly could, so we could turn around and write this vision in our hearts and receive the voluminous amount of information that is contained therein. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, this one's got billions, possibly billions of souls in it. So, but it's very interesting that on the way to the cross, Jesus Christ himself depicted the population of hell, the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace that is the manifestation of what is Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 through 6, which is the mark of the beast upon everybody that's about to go into the lake of fire after the second advent of Jesus Christ. So Revelation 17, 1 through 6 depicts for us the seat of Satan himself in the heart of the image of the beast, as the desire for sexual and monetary control over all flesh, perfected in its highest operational capacity on pain of death. John 8:44. This is what we have. The union's not perfect until the civil and ecclesiastical union comes together in its operational capacity, and we have the beast and the fullness of its numbers, and then of course we have the harlot, which is the false apostate Christianity, that has forsaken the husband and that is no longer acceptable to meet the husband for the marriage, as manifest in the parable of the 10 virgins, which also depicts the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace within all flesh. And we know once the Spirit of God leaves this world, nothing in this world's going to operate right. Everything, there's no democracy. You won't have any there's no democratic union, there's no democratic process, and there's no constitutional protections in the side of the beast. You worship or you die. That's why they're doing. They want sexual and monetary control over all flesh. And this word picture depicts as the woman is joined to the beast, and in the fullness of its numbers are manifest as the image of the beast that are contained within the beast. The fullness of its numbers is the manifest power of Satan and Antichrist in its fullness. Just on the flip side is the fullness of the numbers in the body of Christ, depicted in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 through 16, is the full purpose, presence, and power of Christ on earth. So the flip side of that is the power of Satan and the mark of the beast, that it resides in all lost souls. And we know this word picture in Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 through 6, shows us the seat of Satan within the heart of the image to the beast. The seal of Satan, as the image to the beast sold its soul to Satan for a temporal measure of sexual and monetary control over the creature. That's what this passage is depicting here. So Revelation 17, 1 through 6 depicts false apostate Christianity, an illicit relationship with death, the image to the beast, the ambassador bearing the seal of Satan as a civil mechanism, Revelation 13, 15, and the spirit of Antichrist concealed in a fraudulent cloak of righteousness as an ecclesiastical power, Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 and 17. This is where the image of the beast causes, the 16 and 17 states the image of the beast causes the mark of the beast. But the mark of the beast, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, receive a mark on the right hand of their forehead, no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark of the name of the beast or number of his name. The mark of the beast is spiritual. It causes the seal of Satan to fall within false apostate Christianity and upon all flesh, even outside of Christianity. It causes the worship of death, and it causes people to worship it so it can fulfill its lust of a sexual and monetary nature on pain of death out here on the streets. And so the manifestation of ecclesiastical power is the causality that no man can buy or sell. It's a religious tax that nobody will be able to buy or sell unless they're paying taxes to false apostate Christianity, as she is in subjection to the image of the beast that can kill her. The image of the beast can kill anybody residing in false apostate Christianity. The Bible makes us, they will kill them. Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 makes us absolutely crystal clear that the image of the beast, Satan hates his captives. Then the image of the beast is the same way. They're good. In the eyes of the image of the beast, false apostate Christianity is good for nothing but to be cast out and trodden under foot of men. And by Luke chapter 11, verses 44, we know this is the death penalty. The image of the beast don't like anybody. And it'll kill anybody that won't render it sexual and monetary service. And the Bible makes this absolutely crystal clear in these passages. So this union, it fulfills its operational capacity of civil and ecclesiastical power, the image to the beast with false apostates Christianity. As it fulfills its operational capacity, it becomes a living, animated petition of dead souls residing in suspended animation, demanding the appearing of Antichrist. Revelation chapter 13:18, Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 24, the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace mentioned right here again. The dead souls, the mark of the beast, is right here. And Isaiah chapter 5, verses 8 and 9 is the results of what happens when democracy and God leaves. There's only in the presence of God is there democracy. Revelation chapter 3, verse 20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man open the door, I will come into him and sup with him and he with me. Only God, by his love and grace and mercy, pulls men out of darkness and satanic captivity. But once you're in satanic captivity, if God leaves you there, you can't get out. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 8. No man hath power over the Spirit to retain the Spirit, neither hath he power on the day of death, and there's no discharge in that war, neither shall wickedness deliver those that are given to it. Once God leaves men in darkness, they're there, they're stuck. Their souls are dead. And it's the image to the beast can kill a man's soul and leave his body naturally alive. So he'll render service, or a woman will render service of a sexual and a man, and people will pay monetary money and homage to the image to the beast. Only the mark of the beast will kill souls. So, which is what the image of the beast labors for, is it labors for sexual and monetary control over the population. It's actually laboring to captivate the creature, to kill their souls, and that's what the mark of the beast is. It's service without discretion. And we know that the image of the beast will rape, for example, one man will rape possibly thousands of married women and force some of those in continual service, which Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is death. 1 John 3:4, whosoever commits sin transgresses also the law. Romans chapter 3, verses 19 and 20, verses 19 and 20, and there's another verse in there. We know whosoever committeth sin transgresses the law, so sin is transgressed of the law. That's 1 John 3:4, and Romans 3, 19, 20, and 19 and 23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So the image of the beast will perform spiritual death and demand service without discretion, that's what the mark of the beast it is. It's service without love. It's without the indwelt presence of love within your soul. The total evacuation of the Spirit of grace is, and that's what the image of the beast is doing today as a civil power. It's pouring out the Spirit of Antichrist upon the children of God and the children of man, and trying to kill souls, to render captives on pain of death, so it can fulfill its sexual and monetary lusts. Revelation 17:5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother harlots, abomination of the earth, depicts the conclusion of the mark of the beast upon all flesh as satanic captivity matures unto perfection within all souls that serve the image of the beast. Galatians chapter 5, verses 16 through 24 and 9. As the image of the beast declares horizontal immunity upon earth for iniquity, transgression, and sin, and the presence of Holy Father God. John 8:12, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Isaiah chapter 8, verses 20 through 22. To the law and to the testimony that speak not according to this word is because there is no light in them, and they shall be driven to darkness. Romans chapter 3, verse 20, 19, and 23. 1 John 3:4. Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is death. And Revelation chapter 18, verses 1 through 5, of course, where God declares as the image of the beast simultaneous, declaring horizontal immunity and writing laws so people in democratic society cannot find out. It's hiding iniquity, transgression, and sin, and it's committing murders and potentially leaving dead bodies out in the public open space, so people fear it, and people will render sexual and monetary service to it. They know that when it comes, they have to yield they have to give it sexual satisfaction and pay it homage, or they're going to be put to death. And that's why it's making a public show of the fact that it's committing murders today. It's doing this today, and we know that this is the seal of Satan that's residing in permanent residence upon the image to the beast. And this is why it's making this great fan fanfare in our democracy today, because it wants to sexually abuse God's children and kill them if they won't render homage to it. And it'll kill anybody that tries to bring knowledge of this within our democracy to the masses, which would bring condemnation, because the majority of the people in our democracy are even the ones outside the body of Christ are still residing in a passive manifestation of the fruits of life. Galatians chapter 5 verses 22 and 23. So simultaneously as the image of the beast begins to write laws and obtain horizontal immunity, it declares horizontal immunity, and while it does this, God declares vertical condemnation, and then everybody that is involved with this has the mark of the beast and is about to be resigned to judgment. The total evacuation of the Spirit of grace is about to be perfected within them, and I personally believe it already is perfected within the image of the beast. But there's mysteries that we don't know in full. We know that the image of the beast today is soliciting the murders of God's children, and it's doing so because it wants sexual satisfaction from false apostate Christianity and the population in general. So Revelation 17:6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the martyr Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration, concurring the truth of Revelation 17:5, depicting the fullness of the indwelling of the Spirit of Antichrist, the habitation of death for all flesh. Romans chapter 8 verses 5 through 8, whom fall away into captivity as they were summoned and forced into the kingdom of hell. Romans 3:13 and Revelation 14:9 and 10. We know the image of the beast is laboring right now today, pouring out the Spirit of Antichrist both directly and passively. And Romans 3:13 is the full, complete transference of satanic captivity from the image of the beast to the creature. It explicates the entire process as the image of the beast goes into McDonald's, Burger King, Walmart, and solicits the murder of God's children, and pours out the Spirit of Antichrist to reap a harvest, tormenting people in their flesh both directly and passively. Romans 3:13 explicates this spiritual process as they are in process of receiving the mark of the beast. And Revelation chapter 14:9 and 10 makes absolutely crystal clear that everybody that does service to the image of the beast is in process of perfecting the mark of the beast in service to Satan as Satan. And we know that the image of the beast is the voice. It's one mind, one voice, and one singular vision of Satan, as manifested in Revelation chapter 17 verses 17. So we know the image of the beast is laboring right now today, pouring out the Spirit of Antichrist both directly and passively as it labors to conceal all of the illicit works of men from the public consciousness, horizontal immunity for iniquity, transgression, and sin, the hyper-magnification of Satan's presence, purpose, and power by solicitation of murder of the children of God, and that this inward manifestation of Satan's presence and kingdom within the image of the beast is the beginning of death and judgment upon all flesh. James chapter 1 verses 13 through 15, John 8:44. And finally, this fraudulent judgment of death is the very reservation for the image of the beast and its seat in the kingdom of hell. John 16:1 through 3, and Proverbs chapter 4 verses 14 through 19, which explicates the satanic criminal psychopathology, and it gives us a little bit of a small glimpse of the torments that are going to come within the souls of the image of the beast. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to kill souls. It's designed to captivate people that don't love God and force them out of his presence for eternity, because God knows everybody that loves him, and he knows that people, we've had wars since time immemorial, and a man will go through World War II, and he's shot down, captured by the Germans, and lived and knows what it's like to be captive to the enemy. And he'll come back to the United States and live his entire life and never accept Jesus Christ and lose his soul on that last day. And so that's what this does. It forces off the mark of the beast and the appearing of the image of the beast. As people recognize Satan's presence in democracy and democratic society in its operational capacity, it's a warning for everybody to come out of Babylonian captivity, this spirit of Antichrist that's working in our world, to flee from the image of the beast and to put on righteousness. It's a warning, because God's not going to allow this to continue forever. God's got a people that he wants to take with him and live with, and to live in the holy city for eternity. But before that happens, all the people that don't love God will be made manifest in the fullness of the rebellion against God. And that is the mark of the beast. And when it comes to the full, there's the total evacuation of the Spirit of grace. Revelation 17, 1 through 6 is all these lost souls with the mark of the beast in their final seats as manifested by their work in chronological order, ascending all the way up to the appearing of Antichrist, Revelation 13, 18, in their final seats in the kingdom of hell. And this occurs before the second advent of Jesus Christ. And we know the 7 last plagues, Revelation 16, 1 through 21, fall on everybody that has the mark of the beast. They're going to know it, and the Bible says they're all cursing God because God's evacuated, God's left. They no longer even are abiding in a passive manifestation of God's presence, and they all hate each other, and they all want to kill each other, as manifested by Matthew chapter 10, verse 21. They're all worshiping the image of the beast, and they all have the mark of the beast in every home that's condemned by God. So, Jeffery Lee Owen, if you were edified by this program, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, receive notifications of future installments. And remember, you can come to the throne room of God today and receive your healing directly if you are abiding in mercy and grace as manifested by Matthew chapter 13, verses 10 through 15. Thank you.